I'm not a suspicious man by nature. Spent 40 years assuming the best. That's a long time to be wrong. January 14th, 6 in the morning. Workshop so cold you could see your breath. Frost on the window. Geometric patterns like something shattered and froze mid-fall. My ham radio hummed in the corner, casting that amber glow it always does. Smelled like diesel smoke from the cold start and burnt coffee in a mug I hadn't washed in 3 days. The day before, church potluck. I'd stood there holding Diane's green bean casserole, scanning for a seat. Then I saw her, my wife, across that fellowship hall, laughing at Kyle Brennan's jokes, the financial advisor. That laugh used to be mine. I drove home alone, watched my rearview mirror. Her car didn't follow for 90 minutes. When she finally came through the door, she kissed my cheek and said she'd been helping with the bulletin. I didn't believe her. 6 a.m. the next morning, same workshop, same cold. I flipped the switch on my Yaesu transceiver. Static crackled, then cleared. KZOWMC, this is N0HNK. Morning check. You copy, Warren? Hank's voice. 72 years old, sounds like gravel in a can. We've been doing this since '98. Every morning, 6 sharp. Ham radio, some men go to church, we go to the airwaves. Copy, Hank, signals 5 by 5. I logged it in my leather journal. Date, time, frequency, signal strength. Same ritual for 26 years. My handwriting looks steadier than I felt. You sound off today, Hank said through the speaker. Everything okay up there? I stared at the microphone. The truth sat in my throat like a stone. Just the cold, I said. Liar. 2 more check-ins. Bill in Waterloo, Sarah down in Dubuque. All routine, all normal. I signed off at 6:15 and sat there listening to the static hiss. White noise. Same sound as the wind finding gaps in the metal siding. My grandfather's pocket watch sat on the shelf above the radio. Still ticking. Same spot for 30 years. He'd given it to me the day I bought this farm. Land doesn't lie to you, Warren. Remember that. I wound the watch, felt the tension in the spring, wished I could wind myself the same way, tighten everything back to how it used to be. Scene 2, kitchen discovery. The house smelled like coffee when I came in. Diane was already up, dressed for work. Bank teller for 30 years before she retired. Now she filled her time with garden club and church committees and things I didn't track anymore. I poured myself a cup, spotted a manila folder on the counter, estate planning documents. Kyle Brennan's business card clipped to the front. Let's protect what you've built, Warren. My jaw tightened. Morning, Diane said behind me. I hadn't heard her come in. She kissed my cheek, routine, automatic. Her perfume smelled wrong, too sweet, not the white shoulders she'd worn for 40 years. What's this? I nodded at the folder. Oh, Kyle stopped by yesterday. Just some paperwork. Tax advantages if we restructure the trust before the end of the month. She said it casual, easy, like she was talking about the weather. I'll need to read it first. Of course. But don't wait too long. There's a deadline. She grabbed her purse from the chair. That's when I saw it. Cheap black walkie-talkie, half hidden under her checkbook. Midland brand, the kind you buy at Farm and Fleet for $30. What's that for? I asked. She glanced down, then smiled. Oh, that, for emergencies. You know how spotty cell service gets out here. We've never needed one before. Well, she picked it up, slipped it deeper into her purse. Better safe than sorry? She kissed my cheek again, grabbed her coat. Garden club tonight? Don't wait up. The door closed. I stood there holding my coffee mug, listening to her car crunch down the gravel drive. I walked back to the counter, opened the folder, skimmed the first page. Legal language, dense, deliberate. But one phrase jumped out. Restructuring of marital assets to provide enhanced protection for surviving spouse. My hands started shaking. I set the coffee down before I spilled it, picked up Kyle's business card, his photo, professionally lit, teeth too white, investment planning, estate restructuring, wealth preservation. I flipped it over, handwritten on the back in Diane's looping script. Thursday, 4 p.m. That was today. I looked out the window. Her car was gone. Just tire tracks in the snow, leading away. I went back to the workshop, pulled out my phone, searched Midland walkie-talkie frequency, FRS GMRS band, 462 MHz range, 22 channels. My Yaesu could scan that. Easy. I sat down in my radio chair, leather cracked and worn smooth where my back's rested for 3 decades. Turned the dial. Static filled the room. White, constant, empty. Hank's voice echoed in my head. You gonna tell me, or are we gonna pretend? I wasn't ready to tell him. Wasn't ready to tell anyone. But I was ready to look. I tuned the rig to 462.5625 megahertz, hit scan, watched the digital display cycle through frequencies. Nothing. Just static and the occasional blip of a neighbor's conversation 3 miles out. I checked my watch. 6:47 a.m. Diane's garden club wasn't until tonight. I had time. Sunday evening, 5 days later. The church parking lot was full, always was for potluck nights. I parked in my usual spot, third row back, under the oak tree that's been there longer than the building. Diane had ridden separately. Said she needed to pick up the casserole from Linda's house. I didn't question it. Hadn't questioned much of anything in 40 years. That was the problem. Inside, the fellowship hall smelled like burnt coffee and green bean casserole, and that particular mustiness of old hymnals and winter coats. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, folding tables lined up in rows, covered with dishes people brought. Tuna hotdish, jello salad, ham loaf, the same rotation we'd been eating for decades. I grabbed a plate, scanned the room for Diane, found her in the corner by the dessert table, laughing, head thrown back, hand on Kyle Brennan's forearm. He was talking, animated, confident, silver at his temples, expensive watch, the kind of man who'd never touched a wrench in his life. She looked young next to him, lit up, the way she used to look at me. My plate suddenly felt heavy. "Warren, you okay?" Pastor Glenn appeared at my elbow, 55, soft around the middle, concerned expression he probably practiced in the mirror. "You look pale." "I'm fine." "You sure? You've been standing there a full minute." I set my plate down on the nearest table. "Need some air." Outside, the cold hit like a fist, breath steaming, ice cracking under my boots. I walked to my truck, climbed in, started the engine just to feel the heat kick on. From here, I could see through the fellowship hall window, Diane and Kyle still talking. Then she touched his shoulder, quick, familiar. He leaned in close, said something. She laughed again. I checked my watch. 6:47 p.m. They talked for 12 more minutes. I counted. Finally, they separated. Diane headed toward the kitchen. Kyle walked out the side door, coat over his arm. I watched him get into a silver Lexus. Engine purred to life, exhaust plume in the cold air. He didn't leave. 3 minutes later, Diane came out, looked around, furtive, quick, walked to her car. They were parked 3 spaces apart. She got in, started her engine. I waited for her to head home, east on County Road 14. Instead, she turned west, toward Cedar Falls. Kyle's Lexus followed 10 seconds later. My hands gripped the steering wheel. Leather worn smooth from 40 years of the same grip. I sat there for 5 minutes. Then I drove home, alone. The clock on the stove said 11:14 p.m. when her headlights finally swept across the kitchen window. I was sitting at the table, coffee cold in front of me, estate planning folder open. She came through the door fast, breath fogging, cheeks red from cold, saw me, stopped. "Warren, you're still up. Where were you?" "I told you, helping Pastor Glenn with the bulletin." She unwrapped her scarf, hung her coat, routine motions, smooth. "Practiced?" "For 4.5 hours?" Her hands paused on the coat hook, just for a second. "Car trouble. Battery died in the church lot. No cell service to call you." She turned, smiled, too bright. "Kyle Brennan helped me jump it. Sweet of him." "Kyle. That's so." "Yes." She walked to the table, saw the folder. Her expression shifted, something harder underneath. "Oh, good. You're looking at the papers. We really need to get those signed, Warren. Deadline's January 31st. That's 17 days, exactly. Tax advantages." Kyle explained it all. "If we restructure before the fiscal year..." "I'll read it first." Her smile tightened. "Of course, but don't overthink it. It's just a formality. Protects both of us." "Protects you how?" "Warren." She laughed, but it sounded wrong, sharp. "What's gotten into you? Kyle's a professional. He does this for a living." "I'm sure he does." She stared at me. Something passed between us, a current, cold and electric. "I'm going to bed," she said finally. "Don't stay up too late." She left. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, the bedroom door closing. I looked down at the papers, flipped to page 4, found the clause Marcia would later highlight in red ink. "In the event of dissolution of marriage, restructured trust assets shall be distributed 70-30 in favor of Party A, Diane Caldwell, reflecting primary management responsibilities and 70%, my farm, my father's farm. My grandfather broke this ground with a horse and a plow. 70%. I closed the folder. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady. I stood up, walked to the workshop, Locked the door behind me, turned on the radio, tuned it to 462 meters, hit record, and waited. Next morning, I drove to Farm and Fleet, 7 a.m. Hank was already there, parked in his usual spot, rusted F-250, Reagan bumper sticker faded to ghosts. Inside smelled like fertilizer and rubber boots, and the coffee they brewed too strong in the back office. Hank sat at the little table by the seed display, thermos open, steam rising. "Knew you'd show," he said when I sat down. "That obvious? Warren, I've known you 30 years. You've looked like hell all week." He poured coffee into the thermos lid, slid it across. "You gonna tell me, or are we gonna pretend?" The coffee burned going down. I stared at the seed packets on the wall behind him, corn, soybeans, all organized by maturity date and yield potential. Everything in its place. I think Diane's cheating on me. Saying it out loud made it real. Solid. Heavy. Hank didn't look surprised. Just nodded slow. "The financial advisor? You knew?" "Saw her car at the Marriott restaurant last Thursday, out on Highway 20, 40 miles from here. She didn't see me." He took a sip of his own coffee. "Figured it wasn't my business to bring up unless you did." "She told me she was at Garden Club." "Yeah, well." Hank set his cup down. The sound echoed in the quiet store. "My Mary, before the cancer. She started acting different about 6 months before diagnosis. Pulling away. I thought maybe she'd met someone too. Turns out she was just scared. Didn't want me to see her weak." "That's not what this is." "No," Hank agreed. "Probably not." We sat there. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Smell of diesel drifting in from the parking lot every time someone opened the door. "You know what I did when I thought Mary was hiding something?" Hank asked. "What?" I looked. He met my eyes. Didn't accuse. Didn't guess. I looked. Found out the truth. Saved us both a lot of time. I nodded. "You got proof?" he asked. "Working on it." "Good man." He stood up, screwed the lid back on his thermos. "You need anything? Surveying equipment, a lawyer's name, someone to sit in a truck with you at 2 in the morning, you call." "Why would I need surveying equipment?" Hank smiled, sad, knowing. "Evidence you can hold in your hand, Warren. That's what wins. Not feelings, not suspicions. Hard evidence." He clapped my shoulder. "I'll see you on the radio tomorrow. 6 sharp." He left. I sat there another 10 minutes, finished the coffee, bought a bag of seed corn I didn't need yet, drove home. That night, I waited until Diane went to bed, heard her footsteps overhead, bathroom sink running, then silence. I went to the workshop, closed the door, locked it, pulled up the Midland walkie-talkie specs on my phone. FRS frequencies, 462, ASCII 625 through 467.7125 MHz, 22 channels. Maximum 4 watts transmission power, range maybe 2 miles with no obstructions. My Yaesu FT991A could scan that range easy, just needed to program the right parameters. I worked for an hour, entered the frequency steps, set the scanner to pause on any voice activity, rigged it to auto record when it detected audio, turned it on, static filled the workshop, white noise, constant, empty. Then a voice, male, gruff. "Honey, pick up milk on your way home." My heart jumped, but wrong voice. My neighbor, Ed Parsons, half a mile south. He and his wife used walkie-talkies to talk between the barn and the house. I adjusted the squelch, narrowed the scan, more static. I checked the time, 9:47 p.m., made coffee. Instant, just hot water from the electric kettle I kept for soldering projects. Tasted like rust and regret. Static, static. Then, a voice cut through, female, familiar. Can you meet tomorrow?" My hand froze halfway to the coffee mug. More static. Then a male voice, faint. "Same place?" "Yes, 4 o'clock. He won't." The signal dropped. Static roared back. I stared at the radio, my reflection in the dark window behind it, old man, gray at the temples, eyes hollow. I rewound the recording, listened again. "Can you meet tomorrow?" Diane's voice. No question. "Same place?" Not clear enough to identify, but I knew. "Yes, 4 o'clock. He won't." "Won't what? Won't notice? Won't care? Won't be there?" I sat back in my chair. Leather creaked. The workshop settled around me. Decades of tools and oil and sawdust and cold. This was my place. Had been since I bought this farm in '82. I looked at the radio. Glowing amber in the dark. Tomorrow, 4 o'clock. I'd be listening. Day 11. Thursday, February cold, the kind that gets in your bones and stays. I was in the workshop by 3:30, didn't tell Diane where I was going, just said I had maintenance work. She barely looked up from her phone. Okay, I'll be at Garden Club until 6 or so. Garden Club, right. The radio was already warmed up. I'd left it on standby since morning. Now I sat in my chair, headphones on, recorder armed and ready. 3:47 p.m., static. 3:52 p.m., Ed Parsons asking his wife about dinner. 3:58 p.m., silence. I poured coffee from my thermos. Cold already, tasted like metal. 4:03 p.m., then. Hey, male voice, clear, close. Hey yourself, Diane, bright, young sounding. You get away okay? Told them I had a client meeting in Waterloo. We've got maybe an hour. That's enough. They laughed. Both of them, easy, comfortable. My hand tightened on the coffee mug. So, how was your week? Kyle asked. That's who it was. Had to be. The voice matched, smooth, educated, the kind of voice that sold investment portfolios to farmers who didn't know better. Long. He's been weird lately. Weird how? Distant, quiet. I mean, he's always quiet, but this is different, like he's watching me. You think he knows? Pause. My heart hammered so hard I thought they'd hear it through the radio. No, Diane said finally. He doesn't pay enough attention to know, goes to his workshop, plays with his radios, talks to Hank. That's his whole world. Must be lonely. It is. Her voice softened. Sad. It has been for years. Part of me wanted to rip the headphones off, stop listening. The other part, the part that needed to know, kept them on. You talked to him about the papers? Kyle asked. Tried. He wants to read them first. Shit. We need those signed by the 31st. I know. Diane, listen to me. His voice dropped. Serious now. Once the trust is restructured, you're protected. Even if he finds out about us, he can't touch your 70%. The farm, the accounts, all of it, secured. But if he doesn't sign, he'll sign. He always does what I ask eventually. Just takes him time to process. Process? Christ. Sound of movement, car seat adjusting maybe. He barely notices you're alive, and you're still protecting him. He's not a bad man, Kyle. He's just, she paused, searching for the word. Gone. Been gone for 10 years. I'm just finally admitting it. Then let's make it official. Sign the papers, file for divorce. You get the settlement, we get a fresh start. I can't just... Why not? You said it yourself. He lives in that workshop. You live in the house. That's not a marriage, Diane. That's cohabitation. Silence. Long enough I checked to make sure the recorder was still running. Then Diane. You're right. I know I am. After the papers are signed, after the trust is restructured, then we'll talk about next steps. Promise? Promise. Sound of movement again, rustling, then quiet, just breathing, close to the microphone. They were kissing. I sat there, headphones on, listening to my wife kiss another man. In real time, in the car I bought her 3 years ago, probably parked in that same abandoned lot behind the warehouse on Industrial Drive. 10 minutes of that, small sounds, laughter, her voice saying his name. Then more movement, seats reclining, her giggle. The one I remembered from 1979 when we were young and new, and she looked at me like I'd hung the moon. I should have stopped the recording, should have taken off the headphones. I didn't. I listened to all of it. 22 minutes total, every sound, every word, every breath. When it finally ended, car doors opening, goodbyes, see you next Thursday. I sat in the silence. The workshop smelled like motor oil and old coffee and cold concrete. Wind rattled the steel siding. My grandfather's watch ticked on the shelf. I took off the headphones. My hands were shaking. Pulled out my phone. Transferred the recording. Backed it up to the cloud. Saved it 3 different places. Evidence. Hard evidence. Hank's voice in my head. That's what wins. I checked the time. 4:47 p.m. Diane would be home by 6. Maybe earlier if she didn't bother with the garden club story anymore. I stood up, legs stiff, walked to the small mirror over the utility sink, looked at myself. Same face I'd had this morning, but different. Older somehow, heavier. I splashed cold water on my face. It smelled like iron from the well. Outside, gravel crunched. Car engine. Her car. She was home early. I met her in the kitchen. She came through the door with her purse and coat and that same bright smile she'd had all week. Hey, you're inside. Get done with your maintenance? Yeah. She set her purse on the counter, started making tea, humming something, off-key, happy. I stood there watching her. This woman I'd known for 40 years, slept beside for 40 years, built a life with. She looked like a stranger. "You okay?" She turned, tea bag in hand. "You look pale." "I'm fine." "You sure? You've been acting strange lately." I almost laughed. Almost said, "You want to talk about acting strange?" Instead I said, "Just tired." "Well, don't stay up too late. You need rest." She kissed my cheek, routine, automatic. Her lips felt cold. I watched her walk upstairs, listened to her footsteps overhead, the bedroom door closing. Then I went to the bathroom, closed the door, leaned over the toilet, and threw up. Everything. Coffee, lunch, the bile of knowing. I rinsed my mouth, washed my face, stared at myself in the mirror again. "He barely notices you're alive." That's what she'd said. "He can't touch your 70%. That's what Kyle had said. I gripped the edge of the sink. Cold porcelain, solid, real. They were stealing from me, not just my wife, my farm, my father's farm, everything I'd built. And I had to pretend I didn't know, had to sit across from her at dinner, had to sleep in the same house, had to smile and nod and act like my world wasn't ending. Because if she knew I knew, if she suspected for even a second, she'd stop pushing the papers. Kyle would activate whatever backup plan they had, and I'd lose everything. Marcia Klein's voice, from a consultation I hadn't had yet but could already imagine. "Don't tell her anything yet. Let her think she's winning." I looked at my reflection one more time. Then I opened the bathroom door, went downstairs, sat at the dinner table, and when Diane came down 20 minutes later, I smiled. "Feeling better?" she asked. "Much better." She made spaghetti. We ate. Talked about nothing. Weather, the church bulletin, whether we needed more salt for the driveway. Normal. Routine. Fine. She touched my hand across the table. I didn't pull away. She smiled. I smiled back. And inside, where she couldn't see, something broke. Clean. Final. Like ice cracking on the stock tank. Day 15, Tuesday morning. I told Diane I was going to the co-op to talk about seed pricing. Instead, Hank drove me to Cedar Falls. We didn't talk much on the way. He had his thermos. I had the recording on my phone and a folder full of estate papers. The highway was clear. February thaw starting, snow melting in the ditches, revealing dead grass and last year's trash. Marcia Klein's office was in a strip mall between a tax service and a chiropractor. Professional, but not fancy. Hank waited in the truck, told me to take my time. Inside smelled like fresh paper and burned coffee. Marcia was 62, silver hair pulled back, reading glasses on a chain. Hank's late wife had recommended her years ago for his own estate work. She shook my hand. Firm grip. "Warren, Hank said you needed help." "I do." We sat. I slid the folder across her desk first. She opened it, started reading. Her expression didn't change for the first 2 pages. Then she reached page 4, stopped, read it again, looked up at me. "Warren, have you signed this?" "No." "Thank God." She pulled a red pen from her drawer, started highlighting. "This isn't estate planning. This is theft." That's what I thought. "No, you don't understand." She tapped the page. If you'd signed this, your wife would control 80% of the farm's value in any divorce settlement. Maybe more, depending how the judge interpreted this clause here." More highlighting. "The language is deliberately vague, nested definitions, cross-references to sections that don't exist. It's designed to confuse." My jaw tightened. She said it was for tax advantages. "There are no tax advantages here. This is asset stripping disguised as planning." She set down her pen. "Who wrote this?" "Kyle Brennan, investment advisor. He and my wife are—" I stopped. Couldn't say it. Marcia nodded, understood. "I need to hear the recording." I pulled out my phone, hit play. She listened. All 22 minutes. Didn't interrupt. Didn't react except for a small tightening around her eyes when Kyle said 70%. When it finished, she sat back, quiet, processing. "Warren, this is elder financial abuse. Clear as day. You could press charges." "I don't want charges. I want a divorce. And I want to keep my farm." "You'll get both." She pulled out fresh paper, started writing. "Here's what we do. First, we file counter documents immediately, transfer the farm accounts to a new bank, one she doesn't have access to. Second, we prepare divorce papers. Third, we wait." "Wait for what?" "For her to push the papers one more time. When she does, you serve her, fast, clean, before she knows what hit her." Marcia looked up. Can you do that? Can you live with her? Act normal and not tell her you know? I thought about the past 4 nights, sitting across from her at dinner, smiling, pretending. How long? 2 weeks, maybe less. Can you pretend for 2 weeks? I nodded. Good. She stood, extended her hand again. I'll have the counter documents ready by Friday. Don't sign anything she gives you. Don't tell her you saw me. And Warren? Yeah? Change your banking passwords tonight. Outside, the sun was too bright. Warm for February, snow melting off the cars in the parking lot, running in little rivers toward the storm drains. Hank looked up when I got in, didn't ask questions, just started the truck. Halfway home, he said, You okay? No. Didn't think so. He handed me the thermos. But you will be. That night, I moved into the workshop. Told Diane my back was acting up. Needed the firm cot I kept out there for late-night repair jobs. She bought it, or pretended to. The workshop became my world. Slept on the cot, under 2 wool blankets that smelled like motor oil and dust. Woke at 5:30 to the sound of wind and the pre-dawn silence. Transferred the farm accounts during her church bulletin shifts. Called the bank in Waverly, explained the situation without explaining too much. They understood. New accounts, new passwords, paper statements only, delivered to Hank's address, avoided meals, said I wasn't hungry, lost 8 pounds in 10 days. Day 23, Cody stopped by, young farmer who rented my South 40, 28 years old, good kid, married with a baby on the way. He knocked on the workshop door. Warren, you in there? I opened it. Cold air rushed in, smelled like thawing earth and manure from his boots. Cody. Hey, so, it's mid-March now. We got to talk planning schedule, seed orders, fertilizer applications, soil temps are coming up. I stared at him. Tried to focus. Couldn't. Warren, you hearing me? Yeah, sorry. Just a lot on my mind. He shifted his weight, uncomfortable. Look, I don't mean to pry, but are you okay? You don't look good. I'm fine. Because if something's going on, if you need help with the prep work, I said I'm fine. Too sharp, his face closed off, nodded. Okay, well, I'll check back next week, but Warren planting windows April 20th to May 10th. That's 4 weeks. We can't miss it. I know. He left. I watched his truck disappear down the drive. 4 weeks. Had to hold it together 4 more weeks. Day 25, Diane knocked on the workshop door. 10 at night. I'd been listening to old recordings, trying to find something I'd missed, some clue I should have seen earlier. Warren? Her voice through the door. Small, worried. Warren, are you leaving me? I stood, opened the door. She stood there in her robe, arms wrapped around herself. Cold wind lifted her hair. No. Then what's happening? Why won't you talk to me? Because if I talk, I'll tell you what I know. And if I tell you, I lose everything. Just need space, I said. Space. She laughed, bitter. We live on 40 acres, Warren. How much more space do you need? I looked at her. Really looked. Tried to find the girl I'd married in 1982. The one who'd laughed at my jokes. The one who'd said yes when I proposed in my dad's old pickup truck. Couldn't find her. I don't know, I said. She stared at me, eyes wet. Then she turned, walked back to the house. I closed the door, locked it, sat down in my chair, and didn't sleep until dawn, day 28. My phone rang during the 6 a.m. radio check. I almost didn't answer. Then I saw the name, Pastor Glenn. Warren, got a minute? I'm on the radio. I'll wait. I signed off with Hank early, put the phone to my ear. What do you need, Pastor? Need to talk. Diane came to see me yesterday. She's worried about you, says you're depressed, not eating, sleeping in your workshop. I'm fine. Warren, that's not what she says. And between you and me, you didn't look fine at church on Sunday. You left during the sermon. I had. Couldn't sit there anymore. Couldn't watch her smile at the congregation while I knew what she was doing Thursday afternoons. Just needed air. This is more than needing air. This is... Warren, marriage is hard. I get it. Jean and I, we've had our rough patches. But you don't abandon it. You work through it. That's the covenant. Covenant. Easy word when you're not the one being stolen from. Pastor, I appreciate the concern. Let's meet. The 3 of us. Mediation. We'll talk it through, find out what's really going on. No. Warren, ask Diane about Kyle Brennan. The words came out flat, cold. Then call me back. Silence on the line. Long enough I thought he'd hung up. Who's Kyle Brennan? Financial advisor, investment guy, works at that firm in Cedar Falls. I paused. Ask her about their Thursday meetings. Then we'll talk about covenants. I hung up, sat there, waited for him to call back. He didn't. Sunday came. I went to church, late, sat in the back row. Pastor Glenn was at the pulpit, mid-sermon. Something about forgiveness, about mercy. He saw me. Our eyes met. He looked away. After the service, I walked to my truck, saw him in the parking lot, shaking hands with congregants. He turned, saw me. I nodded. He didn't nod back. Message received. Church wasn't going to help. Church was going to protect its own. And Diane had been volunteering there for 30 years. I'd just been showing up. That night, I went through every recording I'd made. 26 days worth. Gigabytes of static and brief conversations and long silences. I made a spreadsheet, dated each recording, noted every time Diane's voice appeared. Pattern emerged. Every Thursday, 4:15 p.m., without fail, sometimes just coordination. Same place? Yes, sometimes longer. He signed the tax returns without reading them. See? Told you he would. I cross-referenced Diane's calendar on the kitchen wall. Every Thursday, Garden Club, 4-6 p.m. Checked Kyle's company website, Brennan Financial Group, events page. Investment seminars, every Thursday, 4:30 p.m., topics vary, open to current clients. There it was, their cover story, aligned, coordinated, but they'd gotten sloppy, comfortable. I pulled up the last 4 recordings, timed them, they met for exactly 90 minutes. Every time, 4:15 to 5:45, creatures of habit. I opened my phone, texted Marcia Klein. They meet every Thursday. Can we serve papers on a Sunday? She replied 3 minutes later. After church, I thought about Pastor Glenn's face, the way he'd looked away. During, I typed, pause. Then, parking lot. Parking lot, I confirmed. I'll arrange the process server. When? I checked the calendar. Day 41 would be a Sunday. 5 days away, this Sunday. 10:30 a.m., cutting it close. Papers won't be filed until Saturday night. That's fine. She doesn't check her email on weekends. What if she suspects? I looked at the spreadsheet. 26 days of recordings. Every Thursday at 4:15, like clockwork. She didn't suspect. She was too comfortable, too confident. She won't, I typed. Okay, Sunday it is. Warren, you sure about this? Once we serve, there's no going back. Was I sure? I thought about the recording. He barely notices you're alive. Thought about the estate papers. 70%. Thought about 40 years. 40 years of assuming the best, of trusting, of believing. I'm sure, I typed. I set down the phone, looked around the workshop, tools on pegboards, radio glowing in the corner, grandfather's watch ticking on the shelf. This place had been my refuge, my peace. Now it was my war room. I pulled up the recording from day 11. The first full one, cued it to the moment. Kyle said, once the trust is restructured, you're protected. Protected. She thought she was protected, but she'd forgotten something. I'd spent 40 years working with systems, grain elevators, hydraulics, electrical, radio frequencies. You learn how things work, you learn how they break, and you learn that the person who understands the system always has the advantage. I opened a new document, started writing down every piece of evidence I had. 26 recordings, estate papers with highlighted sections, bank transfers documented, witness statement from Hank, Diane's car at Marriott, Thursday pattern, predictable, provable, methodical, organized, complete. Kyle thought he was the smart one, investment advisor, professional, educated, but he'd never fixed a grain elevator motor in January, never kept a 1970s tractor running through 30 Iowa winters, never learned that the old systems, the ones people think are obsolete, still work just fine. You just have to know how to use them. I saved the document, backed it up, 3 more days, then we'd see who was protected. Day 38, Wednesday evening. I was in the workshop calibrating a pressure gauge when my phone rang. Tammy, my daughter. I stared at the screen for 3 rings before answering. Hey, sweetheart. Dad. Her voice was tight, controlled, the way it got when she was trying not to cry. We need to talk. I set down the gauge, wiped my hands on my jeans. Okay. Mom called me. She's scared, Dad. She says you won't talk to her, that you're sleeping in the workshop, that you won't eat with her anymore. Pause. She thinks you're depressed. Depressed. That's the story she was selling. I'm not depressed. Then what's going on? Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you're having some kind of breakdown. I closed my eyes. Tammy was 41, lived in Colorado, marketing job, good husband, no kids yet but trying. She called every 2 weeks like clockwork, dutiful, concerned. She didn't know, couldn't know, not yet. Just going through something, I said. Dad, that's not an answer. Mom says you've changed, that you're distant and cold and… Her voice cracked. Are you drinking? What? Because Grandpa, your dad, he got like this before. The isolation, the workshop. Mom's worried you're… I'm not my father. Came out harder than I meant. I'm not drinking, Tammy. I'm dealing with something and I need you to trust me. Trust you? Dad, you won't even tell me what's wrong. I will, soon, just not now. That's not good enough. She was crying now. I could hear it. You're scaring people. You're scaring me. If you won't talk to Mom, at least talk to me. Please. I wanted to tell her. Wanted to play the recording right then. Let her hear her mother's voice saying, he barely notices you're alive. Let her hear Kyle Brennan planning to steal her inheritance. But I couldn't. Not yet. Not before Sunday. Tammy, listen to me. I kept my voice steady, calm. I need you to trust that I know what I'm doing. You'll understand soon. I promise. But right now, I need you to let me handle this. Handle what? You'll know in a few days. Silence. Long. The kind of silence that feels like losing. Dad, if you're planning something stupid… I'm not. Then what? Something necessary. More silence. Then quiet. You're scaring me. I know. I'm sorry. Mom thinks you're leaving her. I'm not leaving. She is. She just doesn't know it yet. The words hung there. Too much said. Not enough. What does that mean? Tammy asked. It means you'll understand soon. I love you, sweetheart. But I have to go. Dad. I hung up, sat there holding the phone, staring at Tammy's contact photo, her and Diane at Christmas 3 years ago, both smiling, both happy. That picture was a lie, just like everything else. I stood, walked to the shelf, picked up the wedding photo I'd fished out of the trash 2 weeks ago. 1982. Me in a borrowed suit, Diane in a white dress her mother made, young, stupid, in love. I looked at my young face. 27 years old, thought I knew everything, didn't know anything. I opened the trash can, looked at the photo one more time. Then I set it down on the shelf, face up. Not because I forgave her, not because I still loved her, because I needed to remember what I was fighting for. Not the marriage. That was dead. The farm, the land, the legacy, the thing my grandfather broke ground for, the thing my father died working. The thing Diane was trying to steal for a man in a Lexus who probably couldn't tell corn from soybeans. I'd give her the photo when this was over, let her keep it. But I'd keep the land. Day 40, Saturday, 2 days before, I called Marcia. We still on for Sunday? Process server confirmed, 10:30 a.m., church parking lot. He'll approach them together. Together. That's what you wanted, right? You said she'd be with him. I paused. I said I thought she might be. Warren, Marcia's voice sharpened. Is she going to be with him or not? Because if we serve her alone, that's one thing. If we serve them together, that's a statement. I thought about the pattern. Every Sunday for the past month, Diane had been arriving at church 15 minutes early, said she needed to help Pastor Glenn with setup, but last Sunday, I'd seen Kyle's Lexus in the parking lot. 9:45 a.m., before service. They were getting bold, comfortable. She'll be with him, I said. You're sure? Sure enough. Marcia sighed. Okay, Sunday morning, both of them. It'll be public, Warren. Everyone will see. Good. You sure that's what you want? This is a small community. People will talk. Let them talk. All right, your call. Papers rustling on her end. Oh, one more thing. I found something else. My gut tightened. What? Kyle had Diane sign a second set of papers last week. Backup documents, filed with his company, her signature's already on record. Meaning what? Meaning if she gets spooked, if she realizes we're onto her, she could execute the trust transfer immediately. The papers are pre-signed. All Kyle has to do is file them with the county. My hand gripped the phone. How long would that take? If they rushed? 24 hours, maybe less. So if she suspects, you lose the farm, yes. I looked out the workshop window, fields still brown, patches of snow in the low spots, but the ground was thawing, mud season coming, that in-between time when everything's uncertain. Then we move Sunday, I said. No delays. Warren, are you hearing me? If something tips her off before then, If she figures out, she won't. How can you be sure? Because I'd spent 40 years being invisible to her, being the man who barely noticed, being the farmer who lived in his workshop and talked to radios and didn't ask questions. She thought I was predictable, thought I was simple. She thought wrong, but she didn't know that yet. I'm sure, I said. Okay. Marcia didn't sound convinced. Sunday morning, 10:30. Don't be late. And Warren? Yeah? After we serve, she's going to come looking for you. She's going to be angry, desperate, maybe both. Do not engage. Do not let her in the workshop. Do not give her a chance to explain or negotiate, or I won't. You say that now, but 40 years of marriage, 40 years of lies, I said. I won't engage. She was quiet a moment. All right, I'll see you Monday for the follow-up. And Warren? Change the locks tonight? On the workshop and the house. After I hung up, I sat there. The workshop smelled like old coffee and motor oil. Outside, wind picked up, rattled the siding, storm coming in, rain probably, too warm for snow now. I walked to my tool bench, opened the drawer, pulled out the spare padlock I'd bought at Farm and Fleet 2 weeks ago. Heavy, solid, brass. I'd already changed the workshop lock. Now I'd change the house, not to keep her out forever, just long enough. I looked at the calendar on the wall. Big red X through tomorrow, another X through Sunday, day 41, the day Diane would find out that the man who barely noticed her had noticed everything. I put the padlock in my pocket. Then I went to work. Sunday morning, day 41, April 20th, I parked across the street from First Lutheran, same oak tree I'd parked under 40 years. Different now, everything different. Hank sat in the passenger seat, thermos between us, neither of us drinking. You ready? He asked. No. Good. Man who's ready for this isn't human. 10:15 a.m. Service had ended 5 minutes ago. Doors opened. Congregation spilling out into spring sunshine. Too warm for April. Mud season finally giving way to something softer. I watched the door, waiting. Pastor Glenn came out first, shaking hands, smiling, playing his part. Then I saw her, Diane, blue dress, the one I'd bought her for Easter 2 years ago, hair done, makeup perfect. She looked happy. She wasn't alone. Kyle Brennan walked beside her, suit, no tie, casual, comfortable, hand on her lower back as they navigated the steps. Jesus, Hank breathed. They're not even hiding it. They weren't. Walked together across the parking lot, Diane laughing at something Kyle said. A few heads turned. Mrs. Henderson, Ed Parsons, Joanne Miller, watching, whispering. They'd been watching for weeks probably, seeing what I'd been too blind to see. Not blind, just trusting. There's a difference. A brown sedan pulled into the lot, parked 2 spaces from Diane's car. That him? Hank asked. That's him. Process server, middle-aged, calm, professional. He got out, clipboard in hand, walked straight toward them. My heart hammered. Hands gripped the steering wheel, same grip I'd had 40 years, same wear pattern in the leather. The server approached. Diane Caldwell? She turned, smiled. Yes? Kyle Brennan? Kyle's smile faltered, just for a second. Yeah? The server handed them each a manila envelope. You've been served. Diane's face went blank, confused. She looked at the envelope like it might bite. Kyle took his, ripped it open immediately, started reading. The parking lot went quiet. Everyone watching now, no pretense of privacy. Diane opened hers slower, pulled out the papers. I could see them from across the street. Divorce petition, asset freeze, recording evidence attachment. Her face drained, white, bloodless. She looked up, scanned the parking lot, found my truck across the street. Our eyes met. I'd spent 40 years looking at her, loving her, building a life with her. Now I looked at her like a stranger. She mouthed something, couldn't tell what, maybe why, maybe please. Didn't matter. I started the engine. Kyle grabbed her arm, saying something urgent, angry. She pulled away, looked back at my truck. I put it in gear. Pastor Glenn stood on the church steps, frozen, watching. His face said everything. He'd known. Maybe not everything, but enough, and he'd chosen her side. I drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw Diane drop the papers, saw her hand go to her mouth. Hank didn't say anything until we were back on County Road 14. Then, that was the hardest thing I've ever watched. Yeah. You okay? Ask me tomorrow. She came home 2 hours later. I heard her car on the gravel, engine off, door slam, footsteps running. She tried the house first. I'd changed the locks last night. She rattled the knob, pounded on the door. Warren, open this door. I stayed in the workshop, sitting in my radio chair, Phone in hand, recording queued up, she came to the workshop next. Pounded on that door too. Steel rattled in the frame. "Warren, I know you're in there. Open the door." I waited. More pounding, then crying. "Please, please, just talk to me." I stood, walked to the door, unlocked it, opened it 6 inches. She stood there, makeup running, hair disheveled, papers clutched in her hand. She looked 50 again, older, the way she really was when you stripped away the pretense. "Why?" she asked, voice broken, raw. "Why would you do this?" I opened the door wider, stepped aside. "Come in." She hesitated, then entered. I closed the door behind her, locked it. The workshop smelled like motor oil and old coffee and 40 years of work. She looked around like she'd never seen it before. Maybe she hadn't. Maybe she'd never really looked. "Sit," I said. "Warren, sit." She sat on the spare stool by the workbench. I stayed standing, kept my distance. "I want to explain," she said. "Don't." "But you don't understand." I pulled out my phone, pressed play. Her voice filled the workshop, clear, unmistakable. "He barely notices I'm alive." Kyle's voice. "Once the trust is restructured, you're protected." Her voice again. "He won't find out. He doesn't pay enough attention." She lunged for the phone. I held it above my head, out of reach. "Stop," I said. "You're going to listen, like I had to listen. Warren, please, sit down." She collapsed back onto the stool, covered her face with her hands. The recording kept playing. 22 minutes, all of it. The planning, the affair, the laughter, the sounds. When it ended, the workshop was silent, except for her crying. I lowered the phone. "Want to explain now?" She looked up, face wet, destroyed. It wasn't supposed to be like this." "No? How was it supposed to be?" "I was lonely, Warren. You stopped seeing me. Years ago. You live out here with your radios and your tools, and I just wanted someone to notice me again. So you found Kyle. He made me feel young, wanted. You stopped doing that." "And the estate papers? The 70%? That make you feel wanted, too?" She flinched. Kyle said we needed protection, in case things went bad. In case I found out, you mean?" "I didn't." She stopped, started again. "I wasn't thinking clearly." "You thought clear enough to sign backup papers." Her eyes widened. "How did you—" "Marcia found them. Second set. Pre-signed. Filed with Kyle's office." I leaned against the workbench, calm now, cold. "When were you going to use them? Before the divorce? After? Or were you just going to wait until I signed the first set, like an idiot?" "Warren. 40 years, Diane. 40 years I trusted you, built this farm, gave you everything, and you tried to steal it." "I wasn't stealing." "Yes, you were." I pulled out the highlighted estate documents, dropped them on the workbench. Marcia walked me through it, page by page, every clause, every loophole. If I'd signed, you'd have controlled 80% of everything, maybe more. I looked at her. "You weren't just leaving, you were taking it all with you." She stood, took a step toward me. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I made a mistake." "A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. This was calculated." "No. Thursday afternoons, every week, 4:15, like clockwork, you and Kyle in that parking lot behind the warehouse, coordinating, planning, stealing." I held up the phone. "I have 26 recordings, Diane, 26. Every Thursday for almost 2 months. That's not a mistake. That's a plan." She backed away, hit the workbench, trapped. "What do you want?" she whispered. "What do I want?" I almost laughed. "I want my life back, but I can't have that, so I'll settle for my farm." "Warren, please." "You have an hour," I said. "Take what's yours, clothes, personal items, family photos if you want them. Everything else stays." "An hour? I can't. Where am I supposed to go?" "I don't care." "Warren, 1 hour, Diane. Then I'm calling the sheriff." "You can't do this." "I already did." She stared at me, looking for something. The man she'd married, maybe. The man who'd spent 40 years saying yes. He wasn't there anymore. "I loved you," she said finally, soft, broken. "No," I said. "You loved what I could give you. There's a difference." She left, walked to the door, stopped with her hand on the knob. "For what it's worth," she said without turning around, "I did love you. Once. A long time ago." "I know," I said. "I did too." She opened the door, stepped out into the spring sunshine. I locked it behind her. Through the window, I watched her walk to the house, watched her try the door, remember it was locked, stand there for a moment, lost. Then she got in her car, drove away, gravel crunching, engine fading, then silence. Just wind, and the ticking of my grandfather's watch. I sat down in my radio chair. And I didn't move for an hour. Week later, maybe two. Time moved strange after she left. Marcia called on a Tuesday. I was in the workshop, sorting through old receipts, tax season stuff I'd been avoiding. "Warren, got news." I set down the shoebox of papers. "Good or bad?" "Depends on your perspective." Rustling on her end. Kyle Brennan's firm fired him. Ethics violation, client conflict of interest. His supervisor found out he was having an affair with a client's wife while managing their estate planning. Terminated effective immediately. I didn't feel anything. No satisfaction. No victory. Just tired. "Good," I said anyway. "There's more." Diane moved. Found an apartment in Cedar Falls. Working at the diner on Main Street. Waitressing. She'd retired from the bank with a full pension 3 years ago. Said she'd never work again. "How do you know that?" "Small world. My paralegal sister works there. Saw her." I imagined about Diane in a uniform, taking orders, pouring coffee for people who used to sit in her pews at church. Still didn't feel anything. "The divorce?" I asked. "Moving forward?" "She's not contesting. Her lawyer advised her not to fight. The recordings, the backup papers, it's all too damning. You'll keep the farm, the accounts, the house. She gets her personal items and whatever pension she's entitled to. Clean break." Clean. Nothing about this felt clean. How long? Final decree in 60 days. Maybe less. 60 days. Then it would be official. 40 years erased with a judge's signature. "Thanks, Marcia." "Warren, you doing okay?" Was I? Couldn't tell anymore. "Getting there," I said. After I hung up, my phone rang again. Tammy. I almost didn't answer, but I did. "Dad." "Hey, sweetheart. I heard the recording." Her voice was flat, controlled, angry. "Mom sent it to me. Wanted me to hear her side first." My jaw tightened. And I told her not to call me again until I was ready. Pause. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. You didn't know. I should have trusted you. You said you were handling something and I thought you were falling apart, but you weren't. You were protecting yourself, protecting the farm, protecting my inheritance." Her voice cracked. "I'm so sorry." "Not your fault, Tammy. I'm coming home. Next weekend. I'm taking time off work. I'm going to help with the planting. You don't have to." "Yes, I do. You shouldn't be alone right now. And besides," she laughed, shaky, "it's still my farm, right? Eventually, I should probably learn how to run it." Something in my chest loosened. First time in weeks. "Yeah," I said. "It's still your farm." "Okay. I'll fly in Friday. Text me what needs doing." After we hung up, I sat there. Workshop quiet, except for the wind and the radio static I'd left on low. My phone buzzed. Text from Hank. "Coffee tomorrow? Farm and Fleet, 7 a.m. I typed back, "I'll be there." Outside, I heard an engine. Cody's truck pulling into the drive. He knocked on the workshop door. I opened it. "Warren." He shifted his weight. Uncomfortable. "Look, I don't know what's going on with you and Diane. Not my business, but it's May 8th. Ground temp hit 55 yesterday. We got a plant, like now." May 8th. The tractor had been sitting in the shed since January. Covered. Untouched. I looked past Cody to the fields. Brown still. Waiting. Same as they'd waited for 100 years. "Yeah," I said. "You're right." "So we good? You ready?" Was I ready? To start again? To put seed in ground? And trust it would grow? To believe in something after everything had fallen apart? Didn't know, but the land didn't care if I was ready? "Let's go look at the tractor," I said. The machine shed smelled like diesel and old hay and dust that hadn't been disturbed in months. The tractor sat in the corner under a canvas tarp, same place it had been since harvest. I pulled the tarp off. Dust billowed. Cody coughed. "John Deere 4020, 1972 model. My father bought it new. I'd kept it running for 53 years, replaced the clutch twice, rebuilt the engine once. New tires every decade. It looked tired, worn, like me. Think she'll start? Cody asked. Only one way to find out. I climbed up, seat cracked and patched with duct tape. Steering wheel worn smooth where my hands had gripped for 5 decades. Smelled like old leather and hydraulic fluid and every spring I'd ever known. Turned the key, nothing, tried again. Engine coughed, sputtered, died. Might need a jump, Cody said. I checked the fuel, half full, checked the battery terminals, corroded but not dead. Third try, pumped the throttle, held it steady, engine caught, coughed once, twice, then roared. Black smoke belched from the exhaust. Diesel smell filled the shed. The whole tractor shook, rough, uneven, angry at being woken up. But it ran. I let it idle. Warm up. Listen to the engine knocks settle into its rhythm. Same sound it had made for 53 years. Reliable, constant, true. Cody climbed onto his own tractor, newer, bigger, computerized. I'll take the South 40. You take the North? I nodded. We pulled out of the shed. Spring sunlight hit my face. Too bright. I squinted. The field spread out in front of me, 40 acres, brown dirt, patches of dead grass, few wet spots in the low areas where snow had melted last. I lowered the plow, engaged the PTO, shifted into second gear. The tractor lurched forward, plow bit into earth, soil turned over, dark, rich, black. Smell hit me immediately. That smell, the one I'd known my whole life. Fresh earth, promise. Beginning, first pass across the field, straight line, furrow behind me clean and deep. At the far end, I turned, looked back, one row done, 159 to go. Hank's truck pulled up at the fence line. He got out, thermos in hand, just stood there, watching. I waved. He raised the thermos, salute, kept plowing. 20 minutes later, another vehicle, rental car, Colorado plates, Tammy. She got out, jeans and a sweatshirt, hair pulled back. She climbed the fence, walked to Hank. They talked. She looked out at the field, found me, waved. I waved back. She didn't come closer, just stood there with Hank, watching, bearing witness. I kept plowing. By noon, I'd finished 10 rows. Cody had finished 20 on the south end. His tractor was faster, more efficient. At 1 o'clock, clouds started building in the west. Dark, heavy, rain coming. Good, the soil needed it. By 3, I'd finished 20 rows. My back hurt, hands ached. Hadn't worked like this in months. Felt good anyway. At 4, the first drops hit. Cold. Spring rain. I kept going. Rain turned to drizzle. Drizzle turned to steady downpour. I finished row 32 and pulled up to the fence. Tammy and Hank were still there, sitting in Hank's truck now, staying dry. I climbed down, rain soaking through my jacket. My boots sank in mud. Tammy got out, ran over, hugged me, didn't say anything, just held on. I held her back. You did good, Dad, she said finally. Just getting started. Hank appeared with the thermos, poured coffee into 3 lids. We stood there in the rain, drinking. Ground looks good, Hank said, ready for seed. Cody's bringing it tomorrow. We'll plant Thursday. I'll be here, Tammy said. I can drive the grain cart. I looked at her. My daughter, 41 years old, city job, city life, standing in the rain in an Iowa field volunteering to plant corn. You sure? I asked. Dad, it's my farm too. Eventually. Might as well learn now. I nodded, couldn't speak. We stood there until the rain eased. Sky clearing in the west, late afternoon sun breaking through, golden light on wet fields. I should get back, Cody called from his tractor. Same time tomorrow? Same time, I confirmed. He drove off. Tammy went to her rental car, said she'd get a hotel room, come back at dawn. Hank lingered. You gonna be okay tonight? Yeah. You need anything? I'll call. He nodded, climbed in his truck, drove away. I stood there alone. Field half plowed, rain dripping off my hat, boots caked in mud, looked at the house, lights off. Empty. Had been empty for 2 weeks, looked at the workshop. Lights still on, radio probably still running. That's where I'd sleep tonight. Same place I'd slept for 2 months. Eventually I'd go back to the house, clean it out, make it mine again. But not yet. I walked to the workshop, opened the door. Warmth hit me. Space heater running on low. My grandfather's watch sat on the shelf, still ticking. I picked it up, wound it. The spring tension felt right, solid. Set it back down. Tomorrow, I'd plant. Day after, more planting. Week after that, seeds would break the surface. Month after, green shoots. By August, corn would be head high. By October, harvest. The cycle continued. Always had, always would. Land didn't care about heartbreak, didn't care about divorce, didn't care about 40 years wasted or love betrayed or trust broken. Land just needed plowing come spring. I sat down in my radio chair, turned on the transceiver, 6 p.m., late for a check-in, but I keyed the mic anyway. KSOWMC, this is Warren. Anyone copy? Static. Then Hank's voice. Copy, Warren. 5 by 5. You okay? I looked out the window. Fields waiting. Rain clouds moving east. Clear sky coming. Yeah, Hank, I said. I'm okay. Good. See you tomorrow, 7 a.m. Coffee's on me. Roger that. KZOWMC, signing off. I turned off the radio, sat in the silence. Outside, the first robin of evening sang from the fence post. Inside, the watch ticked, and somewhere between the two, between ending and beginning, between loss and continuation, I found something that felt like peace. Not happiness, not yet, but peace. That was enough. That night, I made coffee. Real coffee, not the instant stuff. Ground the beans by hand. Smell filled the workshop. Rich, bitter, alive. Sat at my workbench with the steam rising, papers spread out in front of me, divorce documents, asset transfers, bank statements, everything in order, everything settled. Marcia said 60 days until final, 60 days until 40 years became just paperwork in a filing cabinet somewhere. I thought about Diane, wondered if she was sleeping, if she regretted it, if she'd tell Kyle it was his fault or mine or hers. Didn't matter anymore. I looked at the wedding photo still sitting on the shelf. 1982. 2 kids who thought love was enough, who thought trust was automatic, who thought forever meant forever. They were wrong, but they'd believed it when the picture was taken. That counted for something. I picked up the photo, studied it one last time. Then I set it in a box with the divorce papers, sealed it, wrote archive on the side, put it on the high shelf with the tax returns from 1985 and the tractor manuals and all the other things that were true once but didn't matter now. Finished my coffee, rinsed the cup, set it by the sink to dry. Outside, the moon was rising. Quarter moon, sky clear, temperature dropping. Tomorrow would be cold. Good for planting, ground firm enough to hold weight, but soft enough to take seed. I walked to the door, stopped, looked back at the workshop, radio silent, tools in their places, everything where it belonged. 40 years, I'd built this life, this place, this piece of land that would outlast me and everyone I'd known. Diane had tried to take it. She'd failed. I turned off the light, locked the door, walked across the yard to the house, used the new key, the one she'd never touched. Inside smelled like emptiness, like rooms that needed filling. I'd fill them. Eventually. With what? I didn't know yet. But I had time. I made a sandwich, ate standing at the kitchen sink, looked out at the fields, moonlight on dark soil, waiting. Tomorrow, Tammy would come, Cody would bring seed, Hank would bring coffee, and we'd plant, put seeds in ground and cover them with dirt, and trust that nature would do what it's always done. Take what's buried and make it grow. I finished the sandwich, washed the plate, went upstairs, bedroom door closed. Hadn't opened it since she left. I opened it now. Bed made, her side empty, closet empty, dresser drawers empty. Just space, clean, waiting. I didn't cry, didn't rage, didn't feel much of anything except tired. I lay down on my side of the bed. Same side I'd slept on for 40 years. Closed my eyes, and sometime between the moonlight and the morning, between what was and what would be, I slept, dreamless, deep, quiet. When I woke, it was dawn, and the robins were singing.